You're listening to Journaling with PT. I am your host, artist P.T. Russell. This is a podcast that highlights creative voices and emerging artists from around the world. Today, we're joined by Rosary artisan and entrepreneur, Mr. John Baine. Stay tuned. This entry, recorded April 11th, 2024, is already in progress. Please enjoy.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. And don't worry, I've heard from many teachers in my life, you are the bane of my existence. And that's perfectly acceptable. But the thing is, hi. Yeah, I'm John Baine. I create rosaries. My little company is Olvera Street Rosary. I have a little Etsy shop, and I do most of my good work in person, but I'm also on socials at Rosary 314. So, I am out here like most millennials and fighting the good fight for my own financial independence.
Well, hopefully you win this fight. I think you will.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. How's the weather in your part of the Midwest?
It is actually doing its Midwest thing. And it was like 70 degrees yesterday. And then we got rain. So now it's going to be like 49 for the high. So, yeah, St. Louis is also very famous for its wild weather patterns. And part of it, according to local lore, is that the St. Louis Arch is a weather control device. That is one of those things that William Shatner tells you about on the History Channel. But so there's no particular basis in it, but it's one of those incredibly fun things where people are always like, oh, why it's weather in St. Louis, why is it so crazy? It's like, oh, because the Arch is a government weather device.
A weather device, how does that work though?
Okay, so the architect of the St. Louis Arch was working for what would later become the CIA during World War II in creating weather manipulation devices. And he wasn't really a big architect, but he got chosen for the job to build the St. Louis Arch. And so the conspiracy theory has always been that, and also the reason why they chose St. Louis is because it was a mid-sized city that also received several tornadoes that ripped through the middle of downtown, causing a lot of destruction. And since the construction of the arch, there have been no tornadoes that ripped through downtown. So that's what the lovable tinfoil hat people. This is what they will talk about. But unfortunately enough, St. Louis has its own share of things that are not conspiracies. We have a whole thing with this housing project called Pruitt-Igoe, but this isn't about the racism of the CIA experiments. This is about positivity, and
good to know.
Yeah. No, you know what the thing is as I think the listeners can probably get, I am a person who has way too much knowledge jumbled around in his head.
That's okay. It's perfect.
It's, surprisingly enough, it has served me very, very well. And, part of it comes from my profound dyslexia, which really has, like Stephen Fry said, it's a poison cup that it makes you so special, but you don't want anybody to have to drink from it. And that's really true. And it's really funny the going to the rosary and
Yes.
why it chose me. I like to say the rosary was always like the nice guy in the romantic comedy. Just one day I turned around and I was like, it was you all along. and it it got me through so much. It got me through so much as a kid, and I didn't know I was doing deep meditation uh at such a young age. It was just praying and praying into infinity until the words stopped making sense. I didn't really realize what I was doing until I was much older, and people were like, "Oh, these are Hindu and Buddhist prayer techniques," and I was like, "Oh, that's so funny. I was doing that with Jesus."
Right. When did you receive your first rosary, by the way?
Oh God.
Mm,
Um, like young, very young. I come from a
mm.
gigantic Catholic family. I'm the second oldest of 23 grandchildren on one side and six of 12 on the other.
Not
Um,
bad.
yeah, like, you know, it's a joy. It's a joy, but I would have to say probably six,
Mm,
6 years
okay.
old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you describe that rosary? Do you still have it?
I you know what the thing is that I don't think I have it still, but it was it was a child's rosary.
Okay.
So it was like a big red cross, wood red cross, and big beads, wood beads, and you know, belted together with yarn. Uh, and it was a toy. It was a
Mm,
toy because I didn't know what it was, but really what it was is it's prayer beads across the board are incredible tools for spiritual enlightenment.
okay.
And with a story that is almost as old as human people groups. Like it's really an amazing story. And you know, I got so many rosaries over my lifetime, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I really got a good feel for what made a good piece. And then the
Okay.
ones that I really stuck with were the most unique ones, the ones that have like the most personality, you know. Um
Mm,
and the thing is that well, the thing is that they're all kind of homogenous, and the only ones that I really held on to were the ones that really gave me something to look at, a different material, a different uh,
mm,
metal, something that was like, wow, because everything is just so homogenous.
right.
And and I know how dumb this is going to sound coming from a person, but they're boring. They get boring, you
Mm,
know?
understood.
And I went on I lost my job. I got fired after looking forever for like a real actual grown-up adult job. I finally got one, and I got fired, and I was devastated. And my mom was like, "I'm going out to California to visit your great aunt, and you're not doing anything, so do you want to come with me?" And I was like, "Thanks, mom." And so I went with her, and on a day trip to Olvera Street, I went into a little candle shop, and you can actually follow them. It's Olvera Street Candle Shop, and inside their uh, glass case where their cash register was a, a rosary made out of center drilled coffee beans, like organic coffee beans.
Mm,
And I was like, wow, that's so amazing. I've never seen anything like that. And the Our Father beads were weird, and the centerpiece and crucifix weren't right. And
mm.
so I took it home. I watched some videos on how to fix and make rosaries. I wish I could say something really profound, like an angel of the Lord came to me, or I hiked
Yeah,
up the mountain 3 days. No, I can't. It's YouTube.
right.
Um,
That's how you discovered you were an artist,
I've
or
I've
did you have an encounter before that?
oh well, embarrassingly enough, I used to think I was a highly talented actor. And see that's one of the things too, is that I've always had an art, because when you're dyslexic, You really have to get good at retaining information and being creative with that information that you have. So creativity has always been a thing that has come naturally to me, and my imagination is boundless. Uh,
Wonderful.
oh, it's well, and just really that's what it's so good because each one of my stories, like that center drilled coffee bean rosary, that's my namesake. Even though I found my destiny on Olvera Street, the name of the store
Love
really
it.
belongs to the Olvera Street Rosary that I bought that day. And when I was asking people about names, kind of like how Facebook used to be the Facebook,
Yeah.
they told me to drop the. And so I trusted them and I listened. And so that's where the name came from. But, the thing is I showed that rosary to people, and they were like, this is one of the coolest things I've seen. And that's what springboarded me off, and that's why every one of the rosaries I create are independent art pieces, and they're never exactly repeated, and each one has its own individual story. Because the thing is, I kind of like to think of myself as like Ollivander's wand shop from Harry Potter. you know
Okay.
it's like I am creating these things that are people's tools of prayer, and I have a sincere belief I don't need people to pray like me. I just want people to pray. The world is a better place when we spiritually wish well for others and act well for others as well. I'm just going to say
Yes.
well as many times as I can.
Yes, and they're positive affirmations that you're making. It's not like you're declaring war or anything negative.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's wonderful that you do that, and you have such a passion for it, which is great. I've never heard of anyone being so passionate about a rosary in my entire life.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing just a little bit more about the history of the rosary, if you don't mind?
Well, um, when I started this journey, this spiritual journey, um, it's so funny. It's like I'm actually like making money off of making myself spiritually and other people spiritually better,
Mm,
and it's so fulfilling. But so the the traditional Catholic belief of how the rosary started is that the Virgin Mary appeared to Saint Dominic, and she gifted him the first rosary to go out and help uh, fulfill the conversion of uh, Europe. Uh, you know,
mm,
help squash the little pockets of hedonism and whatnot.
mm,
Uh, and so it was used as from the beginning as a meditative tool of prayer to uh, get people to understand how to connect with God in a holy way and not eating a bunch of mushrooms and dancing around a fire till 4 a.m. Now,
mm,
that sounds baller. Don't get me wrong. I can understand why it was a hard sell, but they use the rosary to be like, no, no, there's like a deep spiritual connection that you can reach through repetition and through reciting these prayers.
mhm.
Now here's the fun off book stuff. Um,
Okay, go for it.
so technically, in some in the very limited Proto-Indo-European sites that can be found in and around the Black Sea, and they've found some graves that have had beads in them, and so some people have uh, surmised that these might have been prayer beads. So
Mm,
technically, the first use of prayer beads that we know about archaeologically would be around the Black Sea in the late Stone Age.
mm,
And then those people, because the Black Sea filled up with salt water, ran away. They went to India and across Europe. But the use of prayer beads really officially starts to crop up in India in the Indus Valley civilization. And
mm,
that's where we get the mala. And then the mala spreads, of course, from India across the Himalayas into China, and as Hinduism and Buddhism moves around, and then also gets adopted into other faith traditions in Asia. But as the Silk Road becomes more of a thing, Islamic communities start picking up the use of the mala and adopting it for their own prayer uses along the Silk Road. And then the Crusades happen. And so then you, after the First Crusade, you start having the first inklings of the Rosary, and more than likely, what happened is veterans from the Holy War returned to Europe, and they were integrating the use of prayer beads that they had seen and learned about within their time in the Holy Land into their own prayer life. So, in essence, so also when you look at the writings of Saint Dominic and he's talking about the Rosary, he's talking about the Rosary as an already existing thing. Not that he was like, guys, I came up with this really cool thing because Mary showed me. But so it appears that Saint Dominic, the Rosary, as because when you look at the first Rosary, it's got like 15 decades, and a traditional mala has 108 beads on it. So
Okay, so just before we go any further, because anyone's listening, they're saying, "Okay, what's a decade?"
okay,
So
sorry.
before we go any further,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm too
please
inside
explain.
baseball.
Yeah, please explain like the schematic anatomy of the rosary beads and their significance. Maybe that'll help if you break it down a bit.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, and actually, okay, so a rosary is a traditional rosary, as you would know it today, is 5 decades of 10 beads. That's why it's called a decade, because each one of these sections has 10 beads in it. And each one of those decades is separated by an Our Father bead, which you say the Our Father on. It's a little on the nose. And then right before the Our Father bead on the chain link, you say Glory Be, or a particular prayer that you feel like. That's where a lot of people recite the mysteries, because the rosary, depending on the day, has different mysteries attached for it. The joyous mysteries, the luminous mysteries. The luminous mysteries on Thursday, but so joyful, sorrowful, luminous, and oh Lord. Well, I'm bad at that. No.
That's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. You know what's gonna happen is I'm gonna remember this in 45 minutes and be like, oh, pain. Anyway,
There are lots of diagrams of the rosary on the internet. You can take a look.
oh yeah. And the thing
They can check
is,
it out. I
it's
mean, they can check it out if they want to see how the anatomy of the rosary. They want to see what each bead means.
well,
And
and there's a lot of look, and the thing is that there are a lot of better people than me who have done a lot of, and the thing is that and here's why I'm bad at it. Because when I was a kid, I could never keep which days to say right straight. So I just prayed the prayers, and I prayed them in infinitum. I just kept going like in an infinite loop. So the thing is that I never paid attention to it, and it's judged. People, don't get me wrong, people judge me, but it's between me and God. We have a good relationship.
yes, that's important. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it really is. And it's one of the things where is like it brings me like relief and enlightenment, and uh like it's well, okay, so real quick, back to the anatomy of a rosary.
Yes.
There's actually something very important, where is that so a rosary has a centerpiece that connects the 5 decades together, and if you put the rosary next to a mala, you see that the centerpiece interacts with the guru bead, that is the corresponding evolution, as you were. So we're actually looking at like different genuses of prayer beads right now, if you will. And then what is the tassel? Is the neck of the rosary, where there's 2 Our Fathers and 3 Hail Marys, and then the crucifix at the bottom. So where the crucifix is where the tassel would be, in essence, on the mala. And so it's you can actually track it. It's really cool. It's spiritual archaeology. And
Beautiful.
you can just move away the layers of history to see how, like, people groups moving around and being exposed to each other really, like, expanded horizons and understandings of God and the spiritual. And people saw what worked and what didn't, and they took the good and left the bad.
Wow. Awesome. I love it. So interesting. And in which way do you feel that rosaries are either misunderstood or misrepresented?
Well, the biggest thing is that it's worn as jewelry, which I don't like.
Yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is that, like, if that is your symbol that you are holding close and dear to your heart, if your belief in faith grows because that rosary is around your neck, then I cannot judge you. But if you just have that on as a piece of jewelry because it cost you $30,000, then I have a
As an
problem.
accessory, right?
Yeah.
Matches with your purse or something like that.
Yeah. And the most dangerous thing that we can do is like, don't get me wrong. Like,
Hmm.
every once in a while, everything deserves a black eye. You know, I
Hmm.
grew up during the priest abuse scandal, so I understand that sometimes, like, you need to have the truths held up to you in the stark light of day and see how you can deal with that in your everyday life and your belief structure. So the thing is that there's a lot of, like, change that can happen, but like, here's my mission. All right.
Hmm.
The thing is that there's a part of the Catholic Mass that says, "Look not on our sins, but on the faith of the Church." And the thing is every single religion, every single uh, institution created by people is perfect in a vacuum. Independent and apart from human interaction, these are all perfect, unblemished things.
Yeah. What are you doing, John? It sounds like you're making a rosary. Are you making a rosary? I hear something.
I'm well, no, my phone just all of a sudden started exploding, and I had to move it in a place where it stopped making noise. I'm sorry.
No, no,
Um,
that's okay. It's okay. I just
um,
thought I heard something.
well, yeah, it was me frantically trying to, like, stop it, stop it, stop.
Yeah, you're keeping pretty calm, so that's pretty good.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
What does the rosary mean to you? In addition to, what does it mean to you
Oh,
specifically? Hmm.
peace, uh,
Okay.
knowledge, um, like, infinity. I know how dumb that might sound, but it's I've found something that people talk about a lot in Eastern traditions, which is this, like, overwhelming sense of peace through meditation. And because I wasn't taking myself out of the flow of prayer and just being in an absolute state of prayer and gratitude and grace and thankfulness, I have actually found myself able to conquer most problems, and also the realization that suffering is the greatest teacher of them all. Um,
Mm.
like, it's not a fun thing.
Oh no.
It's not. It's awful. But see, the thing is that through the use of the rosary, what I have done is, instead of fearing suffering, whenever I suffer, I greet it as a teacher. I embrace the suffering, and not in, like, the Depeche Mode, like, thick eyeliner kind of way. Uh, More in the okay, I am in a bad state right now, and I am suffering. but I am supposed to learn something from this suffering. And from that lesson, when the suffering is done, I will be a better person. And it is so freeing. And this is the thing that is very hard to explain to people about this, is because it's everyone is born with faith.
Mm,
And I just mean the ability to believe, which is kind of like the radiation of faith.
mhm,
Some people are born with faiths that are little tiny sproutlings, and some people are born with sequoia trees. And
mhm,
it's very hard to figure out why there's that big disparity. But the thing is that, like, that's where we get into a lot of trouble, because sometimes there's people who want to believe, they want to be part of the party, and but they don't have the same feelings. They don't get the same feelings, or they don't get the same intercessions. And so what a lot of the time those people end up falling on is dogma, because
mm.
dogma is rules. Dogma is tangible. You don't need to feel the spirit to understand dogma. And
True.
yeah, and this is where we get in a lot of our problems. So, you're like, what do people get misunderstand about the rosary? And this is the thing which is unfortunate, is it's not that just people misunderstand the rosary, it's people misunderstand prayer and
Mm,
meditation. And it's sort of like handguns. It's like it can be used to protect you, and it can be used to wound you. It can be used to wound others. Intentionality is very important, and there's people who use prayer for negative means,
mm,
and they don't even realize that they're doing it, but they're sending those energies towards people in negative ways. And it's we have fallen away from
mm.
a level of spiritual intelligence that we used to have.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Where can folks find a rosary? And I know you do custom orders as well. What type of rosaries have you done in the past?
Well, I've done lots of ones. I'd make ones out of
Mm.
bone. I'm making one out of a D20 Dungeons and Dragon dice set. It's that's gonna be
Wow.
huge. It's gonna be like 5 feet long. But that one's a work in progress.
Mm,
But like I get very creative. But so I make rosaries out of inspired by the coffee bean rosary that I found, things that are interesting and unique, things that make people uh, excited to pray.
mm,
I've had 3 people who are not Catholic learn the rosary because they loved my art, and they were like, "Well, I've got
mm,
one. I might as well learn it." And to me, that's a beautiful thing. My grandmother, before she passed, that was one of her favorite facts. She was so
wow.
excited about that, and I'm like, "Thank you, Grandma." Um, but
Beautiful.
and I thank you. She was a very wonderful woman. Um, but the thing is that you can go to. There are tons of Catholic supply places in most major cities, and some of them are tiny bookstores that like cater to a small group of believers, and some are, like in St. Louis here, gigantic mega stores where
Mm,
it's like 6,000 square feet or something like that of religious items. And just going there to walk around, also I probably just boosted the numbers of Catholic supply way larger than it is. But it's an old department store. It's a large space.
mm,
um and but it's a really like beautiful tradition. And the thing is I get so much interest
mm,
from the members of the LGBTQ plus community, because people aren't willing to talk to them.
mm,
And there are people who were either raised Catholic and they still very much love Jesus and like the teachings and principles of the Catholic Church, or there's
mm,
people who it's like, know thy enemy, and they're interested in wanting to hear and talk about the Catholic Church. And I'm happy to talk with some of those people. And there's some of people who are like, I just want something that I am familiar with that I can start my meditation journey on. And I am here to help whoever uh reach out to whatever greater power they want to, as long as it's a positive deity. Like, if you're a Zoroastrianist, I have helped you. If you're a Muslim person, I want to help you. you know uh like I've said in the past, it's like I've had some people who wanted like narco saint stuff and devil stuff,
Mm.
and it's like, I don't feel comfortable with that, because those are manifestations of direct negativity, and it's very hard for me to parse that out. But I have helped people who are Afro-Caribbean with rosaries to orishas. So it's like, I am about trying to get as many people working together to pray for a better world as possible, because uh belief systems and religions have been misused throughout history for people to help maintain their power. But the whole points of them is for us to try to transcend our like greedy monkey creature that's inside of us, like that grubby, like greedy thing that just has us betraying people and being bad. And so by me doing my like little thing, by making rosaries and malas and prayer beads for people, I am desperately trying my own way to improve the human race and try to move it into a more positive direction. And I know how insane that is. Do not get me wrong, but I'm out here.
Yes, doing your best. It's all
Yeah,
you can.
yeah.
What is your most requested rosary by customers? Is it a traditional one or something else?
Um, Actually, my most requested rosaries tend to be the more custom and
Mm,
independent ones. Stuff with
okay.
people who have their own independent symbols, or people who have had like, I've done work for people who it's like, hey, I'm a Hindu and a and a Christian, and it's like, okay, I can work with this. And it's like, someone comes to me is like, I'm a Buddhist and a Christian, and it's like, okay, yeah, we can do something with that too. I have made uh if we're gonna be all cards on the table, right?
Mm, mm.
um I'm a blasphemer. I'm a hypocrite. I am an apostate. I am all of the things that people say about bad people who believe differently. Like, just put all of the things. But when somebody's like, I would like you to put a Buddha head on a rosary for me because this has helped me through my process and it's very important for me for X, Y, or Z. I will do that for that person, and I will write in the story of the rosary how it's supposed to help them get closer to positive divinity. And if that means, if that Buddha head on that rosary gets that person praying and hoping for a better world and working towards a positive version of themselves and their family, like, I'll do it. Like, I am the black ops for God. I am doing the work no one else will, to try to make people be better. Like,
Okay, John. So have you ever considered being a priest, perhaps, maybe?
I was supposed to be my family priest. Once you have a Catholic family that has enough kids in it and grandkids, it's like, all right, one of you has to bite this bullet. And everyone in the room looked at me, and I was like, nah. But that was because I have always wanted to be a father.
Mm.
I know they're like, well, you would be the father to a whole flock, and it's like, yeah, that's true. But I've always wanted my own genetic children, and that has always been very important to me. And so until that rule gets changed, I'm out of the priesthood. Uh, but for anyone who is,
Understood.
but for anyone who is interested, there is a back door where you can. I swear to God, I did my research. Don't get me wrong. You can become an Anglican priest and get married and have children, and then once you've gotten married and had children and already been an Anglican priest, then you can join the Catholic Church again, and they can't tell you have to divorce your wife and get rid and denounce your children, so then you can just have a wife
Sounds
and
like you have
kids.
a plan.
Well, no. First off, it's hard to convince a wife or girlfriend to like do something you want to do like on a weekend, and you're like, okay, baby, I know you've been Anglican your whole life, but hear me out. Let's convert to Catholicism so we can lead a flock of Catholics. Like, I don't know, you can't sell that. I don't care how good you are as a husband or as a speaker. Like, she like, no, go to bed, go to bed.
Oh, wow. That's interesting to know and to learn. And you are also employed at a museum there in Missouri as well?
Yes, I
Mm.
am. I love it. I love it. I
Mm.
I get to be around intelligent people in an interesting place and surrounded by incredible works of art. Uh, and it's yeah, it's a good place to help find inspiration. Also,
Mhm.
when I work there, I as I walk around the galleries, I get to meditate and pray, and I get to think about the stories for each one of my individual pieces that I'm making. Because sometimes they're really really forthcoming with their stories, but other times they are not,
Yes.
and they need a little coaxing. um
Yeah. Have
yeah.
you seen any beads, prayer beads, or rosaries there? Anything? Any other artifacts that are similar to Catholicism?
From where?
To Catholicism there at the museum?
Oh, well,
Mhm.
they mostly focus on a more modern bent there.
Mm.
So that would be more at our at the St. Louis Art Museum,
Okay.
which if you ever come to St. Louis, it's free and it's a world-class museum.
Wow.
Yeah, along with the zoo here. We really put it there. There's a special tax in the city that makes all the arts inside of our Forest Park district free.
Mm. Mm.
Um, so it's I've I am, I guess we all are, but I am the wonderful recipient of a tsunami of individual factors that have helped make me into somebody who deeply appreciates the beauty and the uniqueness of life. And part of that has been in great thanks to St. Louis.
Awesome.
Uh, yeah, one of the
Awesome.
most crime-ridden cities in America. It makes me love life more and more each day.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's needs a lot of prayer. More beads, more prayer.
Yeah, well, I just told a friend of mine, I on my social media, when my dad would drop me off to school every day, he would say, "All right, have a good day, be kind to everybody you meet." And I've internalized that deeply into who I am. And so, like on my social medias, I'll post that a lot. I'll see something that makes me smile, and I'll be like, don't let anybody corner you into their perceptions of you. Have a great day, be kind to everybody you meet. And one of my friends wrote me, and she was like, I don't want to be kind. Uh, I think everybody should have the day that they deserve. And I
Mm.
was like, don't worry, I have enough kindness for the both of us. And she was like, no one's that nice. And I was like, I have the kindness of 10 men, and my heart is huge, and it's not because of the cholesterol.
Mm.
And that's the thing is that, like, I put in work to be as positive and as good as possible. And there is the times, where it's like, Superman has to break down every once in a while, and that is true.
Mm.
But the thing is, and another person, they said to me, they're like, you're that positive and you're that thankful, you have that much gratitude. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, that's going to kill you, right? And I'm like, yes, but I'm going to die with a smile. And that's the most important thing. And that's the Irish in me. Um, I'm just defiant.
Yeah. Awesome. You're awesome. You're brilliant.
Oh,
Yes, I can't wait to have my own rosary.
oh, well, thank you.
I've never had one before, so this should be something different, and I'll definitely cherish it.
Oh,
So before we close, do you mind giving a recitation of one of the prayers if that's not uncomfortable for you?
well, no, not at all. And see, and it's the very first prayer. It's the Apostles' Creed,
Okay.
it literally states. And I've been asked before by somebody, and I got to use it in like what it was intended for. But it's I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary. He suffered under Pontius Pilate. He descended into hell, and on the third day he rose again from the dead. He ascended to heaven, and the third day, he ascended to heaven, uh, and will come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen. And I had major stage fright there all of a sudden where my brain went bonkers. But
That's okay.
it's one of my favorite things. And I do the rosary wrong.
Mm.
Because I've done it the same way since I was a child. And one of the things is the act of contrition. It's what you're supposed to say. Um, it's what you're supposed to say when you're getting out of confession.
Mm.
And I say that in between the Glory Be and the Our Father prayer, and that one is very important to me because it's oh my God, I'm most heartily sorry for having offended thee. And I detest all my sins, not because they just punishment, most of all because they offend thee, my God, who art all good and deserving of all my love. I firmly resolve, with the help of thy grace, to sin no more and avoid the near occasions of sin. Amen. I say that
Mm.
in the rosary every time because, like, everyone on the right is the loudest, and everyone on the far right and the far left are always the loudest. And there's
Mm.
so many people in the center who are just too busy to not to be bothered, but it's that they got bills, you know, and so do I. But the thing is that I'm not a perfect individual, and I have to constantly ask for grace and forgiveness to try to be better and to fight, uh, to not let the world make me bitter and cruel, like it is.
Mm.
And so that's why I say a whole litany of extra prayers on my rosary, because the thing is I have to be generous, I have to be kind, and I have to do it all in spite of the world around me. And it takes a lot of strength to do that. And the people who love my work, uh, they help give me strength, and they help give me the belief to continue to have faith in people and the world and to keep fighting. And my greatest thing to try to tell people is I don't have any answers or particular spiritual insight. What I have is a will to fight, and I want you to fight with me. And I want you to do, and you don't have to be on your knees while you're doing it. You can do it on your feet. And that's
Well
my
said.
greatest hope for this little business. I know I've made my, like, I'm some dude who puts beads on wire, and I'm like, I'm fighting for the soul of the world. But in my own way, it's how I'm trying to make things better.
One person at a time.
Yeah.
One person at a time. It was awesome having you. Such an interesting topic. I want to know more. I would love to have you back on. Maybe we
Okay.
can talk about film and the Catholic Church, maybe your favorite. Thank you for listening to the Journaling with PT podcast and our conversation with rosary artist and entrepreneur, Mr. John Baine. His information is in the show notes. Please give him a follow. Follow the podcast. Thank you so much for all of your support. I really, and we really, appreciate you and all that you do. As this season 1 winds down, please continue to stay tuned as there are a few more entries left before the end of season 1.